Federal employees who are in charge of nuclear weapons got the pink slip last week. It's all part of the Trump administration's massive wave of layoffs. I'm talking about workers at the National Nuclear Security Administration. We should note, though, some of those workers are now being asked to come back to work. So here's some of what the administration is tasked with doing. They maintain the U.S. nuclear weapons stockpile. They reduce global danger from weapons of mass destruction. And they also work hand in hand with the U.S. Navy. And they respond to nuclear emergencies in the United States and abroad. Here now from the Nuclear Threat Initiative is Scott Roecker. And Scott, thank you so much for being with us today. Can you talk more about what this agency oversees and some of its responsibilities?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. As you mentioned, the primary mission of the NNSA is to maintain our nuclear weapons. But this has actually gotten more complicated in recent years with an effort to modernize them, which is a huge task, to say the least. But perhaps less well known is the international engagement that they do to prevent nuclear terrorism, to also stop new countries from getting nuclear weapons. There's approximately 200, federal employees that have these duties, working in essentially every country in the globe to eliminate weapons-usable nuclear material, to secure the material that remains, and also to protect that highly radioactive sources that could be used in a dirty bomb, again, located in pretty much every country around the globe.
Wow. They do quite a lot. Scott, we know that some of the workers at the agency were fired and then they were asked to come back. So can you talk about what happened here? And have you had any contact with some of those people affected by the layoffs?
Yes, I have. And, I know some of these people were actually working abroad when they were notified that they were fired. They were out doing, the agency's business around the globe. And let me tell you who these people are. They're highly educated with advanced degrees. They're passionate about what they do. They love their jobs. They're incredibly hardworking. They'll oftentimes, miss weekends or holidays with families and friends because they want to make our country safe. So these are really important jobs that are in direct service of our national security. And the firings, as has been reported, were arbitrary. They're focusing on probationary period employees that were recently hired only because they're the easiest to fire. So there wasn't like a decision made to, cut a job or two or a mission. It was very arbitrary, which makes it all the more confusing.
And Scott, just to follow up on that first question, some of those people that you know of personally who were fired or laid off, have they been asked to come back?
I've not heard from everyone, but I understand that many of them have been asked to come back. Whether they accept, it'll be interesting to see because certainly there's been trust lost.
Of course. Of course. And one more question for you here. What are the potential ramifications of this massive layoffs at an agency like the Nuclear Security Administration? Can you talk about the gravity of all this?
Yeah, I mean, certainly damage has been done. This sent a shockwave through the agency. And if they were to continue, we would really be ceding our global leadership to prevent a nuclear catastrophe, something that we're uniquely positioned to do because we have these highly capable federal employees, because we have the national laboratory system across the United States. We've got labs in Tennessee, New Mexico, Washington State. So there would be a significant vacuum that was left if the U.S. Sort of cedes its leadership in this area, and it could make it more likely that a terrorist could obtain a nuclear weapon. Our nuclear weapons would also be less reliable, which would be certainly a concern domestically, but also for those countries that we've committed to protect. And this is all happening at a time when we need these jobs more than ever because of the modernization of the weapons program, because we're expecting to see more nuclear energy in dozens of new countries to help combat climate change. So at the very moment where we need these jobs all the more, firing would certainly be taking us in the wrong direction.
Scott Roecker, thank you so much for putting all of this into perspective for us. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.